Ghislaine Maxwell, is she going to take a plea deal? Are you kidding me? After all this, is she really going to take a plea deal and close this case out? I don't know. But one of the attorneys who's involved in the case is hinting at that. We're going to go to this story from thesun.com, and we're going to take a look at some activity that's going on in Ghislaine's case. We're going to do a little bit of backstory because the Sun gives us some details here about another attorney who is involved in the case, speculating that maybe there are some plea negotiations taking place. And so remember, if you're not familiar with criminal law to the extent that maybe I am, of course, when you're charged with a crime, a couple things can happen that are going to dispose of the case. So one is the government could just dismiss it. Oh, we charged you with a crime. We don't think we can prove this anymore. We're going to file a motion to dismiss and the whole case goes away. Is that going to happen with Ghislaine Maxwell? Definitely not. So the other way, more common ways that these cases are resolved is one, somebody takes a plea deal. They say, listen, I know I've been charged with these serious offenses. Since you're going to give me a lesser deal, since if I'm convicted of, let's say in the Derek Chauvin case, if you're convicted of all three, maybe you serve, I don't know, 10 years in jail. But as part of a plea deal, we're going to say, well, we're going to give you one of these charges and we're going to reduce the 10-year plea down to 5 years. So you get a benefit by taking the plea deal. The government gets a conviction. They don't have to impanel a jury. They don't have to risk the possibility of losing a case. So it kind of makes everything happy. Everybody happy. We save some judicial resources and the whole thing moves on. That's one way to do it, by taking a plea deal. The other way to do it is just to go to a trial, right? And just like what happened with Chauvin, there was no plea deal. So he went forward, he had a trial, and he got convicted. And that disposes of the case. So many people have been speculating that with Ghislaine's case, that a lot of this was about preparing for trial and sort of overburdening the government with paperwork and sort of this chaos theory where every single thing that the government does to prosecute the case opens the door for a whole slew of defenses. And we saw this happening, right? The government was accusing Maxwell's attorney, Bobby Sternheim, of giving Miss Maxwell some documents that she was not allowed to give her. And of course, that opened up a whole can of worms. Miss Maxwell's attorney now is responding back over to the government and saying, are you accusing me of doing something improper? Oh, how about this? How about I want records of every single thing that you've ever done ever. And I'm entitled to that because you're accusing me of misconduct, right? And it's really getting aggressive. So now as this story pops out that she is, quote, likely to cut a plea deal, is raising some eyebrows. As I mentioned, this comes over from The Sun. Says, will she survive? This story was written yesterday by Emma Perry. This is an exclusive to The Sun. Ghislaine Maxwell, quote, likely to cut a plea deal, but may face the same fate as Epstein if his powerful pals find out. That better not happen, folks. I will be so mad. Earlier this week, a judge agreed to Maxwell's request that the trial, which was scheduled to start in July, is put back until the end of the year after the prosecution added more charges, right? And I've been saying this. I knew this was going to happen. This case is not going to happen. Remember, the prosecution disclosed 2.7 million pages of documents, like a skyscraper worth of documents. Literally, Ma Fox did the analysis on it. I think it was like 983 feet of documents. It was insane. So are they going to really have a trial scheduled in June? No, of course not. Maxwell denies all wrongdoing. She's pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking and other charges over her alleged role in procuring 4 teenage girls for former lover Epstein to abuse between 1994 and 2004. Coven speculates that there is a high likelihood that that the delay is because Maxwell is negotiating a plea deal in which she would hand over incriminating evidence on Epstein's powerful pals to avoid a public trial and get a shorter sentence. So what they're talking about here would be something we talk about in criminal law called a free talk. Let's say, hey, you're a defendant who's being charged with crimes, but you've got some powerful information that the government really wants. So if you're going to freely give up that information in a free talk format, meaning you're going to have government investigators come in, you're going to sign some sort of immunity deal, you're going to tell them everything, spill your guts about everything, maybe they'll give you a better deal. Remember when I said they're going to give you a benefit for not going to trial? Maybe you'll get a really good benefit if you're going to give them some information that is useful to them in their prosecution of other people. So we have the story continues. It says here, let me go back to this. It says here that initially, I'm not surprised by the delay in criminal proceedings by a case as complex as this, especially one where people were added to the claims later on. that would get you a continuance of a trial date. And remember, they did charge her with new charges, which is why I was always saying that this doesn't make any sense that this was going to happen. 2.7 million pages of documents, new charges, the list goes on and on. No way they're going to get this scheduled for this summer. Having said that, I think there's a high likelihood, given the delay, that what is going on behind the scenes is that they are probably discussing the negotiation of a deal, and ultimately she will never end up in front of a jury and she will cut a deal. The question then becomes, if the powerful people that don't want her to cut a deal learn about the deal before it's decided and before she is convicted, will she ultimately survive the deal? Okay, maybe the same thing was happening with Epstein. Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea what happened there. Everybody sort of just, oh, shucks, lost another one and moved on with the story. So anyways, it says here, because any deal she cuts would have to include jail time, although she is currently in jail time. I don't think there's any way that the U.S. Attorney's Office could save face in this matter unless there was jail time attached. If she's in jail, part of her deal is to turn evidence over against powerful people. She's aware of that might also be prosecuted. And I think there ultimately would be a high likelihood that something untoward would happen. I believe that it's likely that if she ends up with jail time, that she could meet the same fate as Jeffrey Epstein. Kuvan believes that Maxwell may have damaging information that it could implicate powerful men all over the world. She said Ghislaine has information dating back over 20 years plus with respect to not just Epstein, but others in the circle that Epstein brought into the organization. So it's going to involve powerful men in the States and the UK and other countries too. We know from reading Epstein's little black book that he had strong connections with powerful people all over the world. At the end of the day, Ghislaine is in the photograph that has been widely circulated with one known accuser, Virginia Giuffre, and Prince Andrew is in it. So she's a direct witness to that photo. She could at least verify the validity of it. Prince Andrew has vehemently denied any misconduct. Kuvan has previously questioned the official versions of the events, including the suicide. Problem I have is that in order to believe the official story, you would have to believe two things: either that the federal government and the DOJ had massive failures of its systems. And coincidentally, this is regarding Epstein, at the same time, there was a failure of surveillance cameras and human oversight and 2 guards falling asleep and a failure of other checks and balances. So all of these things, camera went down, guards are asleep. All of the other protocols, like the checks, all of the things that were supposed to happen to make sure that nothing happened to Epstein, coincidentally, they all just kind of failed at the same time, resulting in his death. Okay. So they're saying that there's a massive, massive series of failure. Kuvan says that he still hopes that Maxwell faces a trial and he gets some justice for victims. My clients I represent, they want a full accounting in open court of the evidence against this woman so that she can stop claiming innocence and stop claiming she's being victimized by all of this. And that's really what they're doing. So over here, her brother set up a website. I want to show you that here in a minute. Multiple women can account for what occurred. She says, I don't wish death on anyone, but she should pay for what she did. Maxwell was last seen with a black eye. She's being held in restrictive conditions in her jail cell, and her brother is saying that all of this is highly inappropriate. So he set up a website, and on it, he says that the drinking water is full of contaminants. The food is inedible. Food has been fed to her on plastic trays that have melted when exposed to microwave heating, making the food inedible and unsafe. Kuvan also hit back at the claim, saying that he has no sympathy for Maxwell. She deserves everything she gets, he says. The website set up by the brothers is just disgusting, he said. There are so many women who have stepped forward. The fact that she's uncomfortable in jail, that gets a big who cares from me. Well, I disagree with that. I care. You know, you may not like a defendant, but Ghislaine Maxwell is still innocent until proven guilty, right? She's a flight risk, so she can't be let out of custody, but she gets the same treatment that anybody else gets. I know that's not popular, but it's the law. Jail is supposed to be miserable and uncomfortable. Not really. I'm glad they are making it miserable and uncomfortable for her. So this attorney is just mad. He's just very, very mad. Jail is not supposed to be, inhumane. Let's just leave it at that. We have the website. So this is what the brother put together. It says about Ghislaine. We got FAQs, news and commentary resources. So he's got a video over here. It says here, new Orwellian to the max. Posted on May 5th, says this is a scary and completely contrary to the representations that were made that Ghislaine's treatment was routine. Now they admit she is being singled out and treated like this for what they say is her well-being. They would be laughable if not so frighteningly like something you'd hear from Orwell's Ministry of Truth. The torture for her own well-being. Wow. Everyone knows that this torture is a direct result of the Epstein effect. It's not right. Appeal attorney So the reaction, reviewing the BOP. Okay, so you can see all here, right? Same type of stuff. This is another page of the brothers' website, and they're giving a nice little backstory on here. Here's Ghislaine with her siblings, June 2019. Here's Ghislaine at a UN event. Look what a nice person she is. Born on Christmas Day. Like Jesus. Oh, isn't that sweet? Ghislaine was the 9th child of Robert Maxwell, a self-made businessman, blah, 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 right? So, right, a nice big sort of hagiography about Ghislaine to do some PR damage control. So that's great. Then we can take a look over at the docket, and this is what has been going on in the Ghislaine case. Then we're going to take a quick look at a letter from Bobby Sternheim. So a lot of activity this week. So we see here on May 4th, there was an order. Defense counsel requested the court issue an order directing the MDC to accept 2 hard drives from counsel that contain the non-highly confidential discovery. So passing some documents back and forth on hard drives. Then also on May 4th, we have a letter by the USA, so the prosecutors, to Ghislaine and her defense attorneys talking about subpoena requests. Then on 5th, we have a letter from the prosecutors to Ghislaine about the use of flashlights, so probably flashlights, at the prison facility. Then on the 6th, they deleted some document. Don't know what that was about. Then on May 6th, we have another one that says it's a letter from the prosecutors to Ghislaine about another subpoena for another document. Then we get down here to today, May 7th, a letter by Ghislaine Maxwell addressed to the judge from Bobby Sternheim, dated 5/7. It is once again regarding these flashlight and security checks. So let's get into it. This is the letter. It's about two and a half pages, I believe it is. So we're going to go through it quickly. You can see law offices of Bobby Sternheim filed this again today. Once again, she writes, the government reports second and third hand information from the MDC. The MDC is the, I think it's the Metro Detention Center or whatever that is. The reliability of which has become increasingly questionable. In its May 5th letter regarding the flashlight security checks, the government contradicts previous reports that Maxwell has an eye mask. This allegation, immediately refuted by her counsel, was a focus of the Second Circuit's questioning during oral argument. Now, the government reports that the MDC cannot provide an eye mask to Miss Maxwell and that an eye mask is considered contraband. This alone is a basis for the court to question the veracity of the representations made by the MDC. What are we talking about here, right? For a long time, Maxwell's attorneys have been screaming that these conditions have been bad. And the reason they're doing this is, in my opinion, to plant some stakes in the ground that will justify an appeal later down the road. So if Ghislaine Maxwell and her attorneys, if she goes to trial and loses, well, what are they going to do? They're going to turn around and say, well, of course we lost. We couldn't prepare for trial. She didn't even have clean drinking water. She couldn't get a decent night's sleep. How could she possibly prepare to represent her interests in a very long, gruesome trial that involves multiple charges, multiple victims, 2.7 million pages of documents? You guys have been making it physiologically impossible for any human being to be mentally capable of participating in their defense. Therefore, the conviction should be thrown out, right? That's sort of what the argument I think that they are maturing. So they've been saying that what has been causing these sleep problems has been the flashlight. The guards are going around every 15 minutes. They don't want her to Epstein herself or to get Epsteined. And so they're shining a flashlight in there every 15 minutes. Well, she's going, I can't sleep. I need something. So they so now she's saying, I was putting a sock over my eyes so that I could sleep. During oral arguments in the Second Circuit, I believe it was, there was the judge specifically said, hey, are you shining flashlights in her eyes every 15 minutes? And if you are, why? And can you justify that? And if you are, can we get her an eye mask? And it sounds like here what Bobby Sternheim is saying is that the government said she already does have an eye mask. We're allowed to give her that. Then they turn around and say, oh, just kidding. Eye masks are contraband, so we cannot give her an eye mask. So now Bobby Sternheim is saying, hey, Judge, listen to these morons. They don't even know what the hell they're doing. You're getting second and third hand information from them. They are totally incompetent, and everything that they're telling you about what they're doing correctly, this is evidence that it's total incompetence. If they're saying that the conditions are good, you shouldn't believe them, because there is no credibility to their statements based on the fact that they can't even give you proper information about an eye mask. They said that she had one and that was sufficient. Then they said it was contraband. So they can't get their story straight. She goes on. She says, to justify the 15-minute flashlight surveillance that is causing Miss Maxwell's disruptive sleep, the MDC claims that Miss Maxwell is on an enhanced security schedule. The reasons given to support the need for this are spurious. They single out Miss Maxwell to the detriment of everyone else there, even though they have more serious charges and potential stress. The MDC attempts to shift the focus of its conduct by saying it's basically Maxwell's fault. Maxwell expressed concern for her safety if she were housed in general population. So she wanted to be isolated and segregated, and so it's her fault that we have these conditions. Well, Bobby says the MDC should check its facts, should fact check its records before making bold assertions. The intake screening form completed by Maxwell when she entered the facility posed the following question. Do you know of any reason why you should not be placed in general population? Miss Maxwell responded, no. It is the MDC, not the inmate, who makes the determination regarding general population or segregation. The intake screening listed psych alerts, which are baseless and broad publicity, which is accurate and concerns risk of harm to Maxwell via violence. The MDC staff who leaked to the press that she had been vaccinated. So the staff leaked that. Wow, I didn't know that. Further, in her desire to interact with other inmates, she completed 2 programs to assist other inmates, to qualify as a teacher aide and to offer to help update the learning curriculum, and 2, to qualify as a companion for Suicide Watch. Her de facto solitary confinement prevents her from utilizing that training to assist others. Ms. Maxwell, she doesn't want to die by suicide. She wants to be on Suicide Watch to help other people, and she wants to be a teacher's aide. Isn't that neat? Her segregation and her surveillance, according to Bobby, say they go way beyond the concerns already posited. Every day of her detention, she is guarded by at least 3 officers who watch and record by writing and via a handheld camera when she eats, showers, cleans her clothes, brushes her teeth, etc. As the guards feverishly write while observing Maxwell during video conferencing with counsel, it appears they go beyond their routine, continual 15-minute reporting. Her non-legal phone calls are monitored. It was the staff who was confronted. She does not discuss personal matters. We invite the court and the government to review the calls, which contradict the unsupported allegation that she is a flight risk, and support her family's strong ties. Her monitored communication shows that she's got strong ties and that she intends to establish her innocence at trial. She wants to come back to court. She's not going anywhere. Listen to the phone calls. She's on with her brother talking about the website. How's the website going, sweetie? In the face of the Epstein death, on BOP's watch, the Bureau of Prisons watch, the MDC would not risk a repeat of the debacle that occurred in the MCC. There can be no doubt the MDC was following directives from Bill Barr and the director of BOP in determining that Maxwell should not be placed in general pop. Regardless, the MDC would never risk security to Maxwell or the institution by placing her in general population, knowing the difficulties it would face in protecting her. But the decision does not justify the degree to which MDC overmanages Ms. Maxwell's detention and its detrimental effect on her health, her well-being, and get it, the ability to prepare for trial. See that? That's what this is all about. She has no ability to prepare for trial. All of this is a due process violation. We have repeatedly expressed our concern for Ms. Maxwell's health and the impact her conditions of confinement are having on her health and well-being, her ability to prepare for trial, and the overall impact the severe conditions will have on her stamina to withstand trial, which we move to fall. With each passing day, it becomes increasingly more obvious to her extreme conditions will not be improved, her health will deteriorate, and it will be commensurate with unprecedented conditions of confinement, unparalleled. Very truly yours, Bobby Sternheim. Making a record. Every time there's a little bit of a blip, right? The food wasn't properly heated. Okay. She could die from that. You know, it's all of these little things, but it's death by 1,000 cuts, and her attorneys are doing a nice job here. We have liberty or death is in the house, as if Maxwell is the key that unlocks the door to Clinton, Andrew, Roberts. I am okay with a plea deal where she does time. Same fate as Epstein, so they will sneak her out of the country. I know. So I'm okay with a plea deal on that too. Yeah, I mean, if we come out and she's got like 50 world leaders in the list, sure. You, whatever you want, you know, well, you know, you can't be around. We'll carve out some reasonable accommodations. How about that? Same fate as Epstein. I know. He's probably on an island somewhere. Jeremy Matrita says they should have kept any talks about Maxine plea deals under wrap. She won't survive for long if she has dirt on powerful people. I know, right? That's a good point there, Jeremy. Very interesting. We have Nadar in the house says, I have an idea for a future project you should think about. I think it would be amazing if you and maybe even the DUI guy created a network group nonprofit that helps people find lawyers in their country, state that are good human beings and have the same philosophy, outlook on the law and helping people as y'all do. I think it would be incredibly helpful to average folks. Just something to ponder on. Thanks for what you do. Thank you, Nadar. I like that idea, and I like, I'm not sure what that would look like in practice. Like, do we start a website or something and say, hey, we're good lawyers, we're good guys out there and you should hire us because we care about you and stuff like that. I mean, I think every lawyer says that, every lawyer does wake up and make a TV commercial or make an ad or whatever. And they probably believe it too. Hey, we care about people and we're out there doing good work and blah, blah, blah. I just think that it requires, at least today, just a little bit more, about sort of, standing for something. It's not just, in my opinion, it's not just about practicing law anymore. Like in the 70s, maybe that was a thing. You just practice law, just like you sell sandwiches. Just practice law and sell sandwiches. Same thing. Okay. If somebody gets a bad sandwich, whatever. You're not out there to change the sandwich industry. You're not out there to, invent a new sandwich and make sure that nobody gets sick from sandwiches and modify the whole culture of how you eat it and all that stuff. It was just practicing law. Well, now it's not like that anymore, at least not for me. That's not why I went to law school. I'm not interested in just shoveling papers around and sort of doing the same thing that's been happening for forever. There was a period in my career as a lawyer where I was just processing. Okay. I was processing. And now I'm at that stage in my career where I want to be a part of a solution. Okay. I'm tired of seeing the same problems. I've been seeing the same problems over and over in our justices, and I'm sick of it. So now I get to come out here and spend time with you. And fortunately, some people will tolerate me for some period of time and we can have a fun conversation on occasion. But I'm going to continue to do that. And I really encourage other lawyers to do that, because I think if you're authentic and you just put yourself out there and you actually stand for something, I think people can see that and they can tell. And then I think that if you're putting your full self out there, somebody's going to resonate with that. And you'll be successful almost just by osmosis, because you're being your authentic self. Somebody else is going to receive that. It's going to match what they need in the world, in the universe, and you're going to be able to do business, maybe even be friends, maybe even, who knows what happens down the line from there. Last question comes in from Jeremy. Says, she most certainly has damning evidence against many people. Epstein's business model was based on extorting wealthy people. I'm sure she does. I am sure she does, which is why everybody is on ultra high alert when it comes to Ghislaine Maxwell. All right. And so great questions. All of those once again came over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Want to welcome 2 new subbers over there, 2 new supporters. Welcome to Fubai and Liebert are both in the house. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And I want to welcome and thank you all of those of you who ask questions today. You're all up there on the board. You know who you are. We also want to say thank you to everybody else who supports the show over on Locals. And I want to just give you a quick reminder that at the start of this program, we have 2 dates of upcoming. We have a virtual event in May, and then we have another one in June. The dates on those are posted over on Locals. So we're going to have a monthly meetup, and we're going to try it, right? All of this stuff is kind of experimental, but if you're on this list, if you're anybody who's a supporter at Locals, you're going to get access to all of this stuff at no additional charge, no additional cost, nothing like that. You just kind of come and hang out. So we're going to do a monthly meetup for the Locals community exclusively. And then we're also going to do what I sort of envision to be a quarterly seminar, a quarterly workshop where we can have some fun with this stuff. So previously at the start of this show, I was talking about the law enforcement interaction training that I want to do. And I'm very excited about this. These are fun topics, because you can break into breakout groups and you can do hypothetical exercises about how certain things work. If you sort of envision yourself in your home and a cop comes to your door and a cop says something and something happened in the home and the cop says something and you say something, how does the whole interaction work? And at what point does it go bad? So we've got some hypotheticals that we'll play around with, a lot of the stuff that we sort of talk about in the law. And the goal here is to make it so that it's useful to you, so that when you are out there living your life, if something happens, if your son calls you and says, hey, the cops are at my dorm room, you know what to do. Hey, son, do this, say this, make sure that you're respectful and say these magic words. then there you go. And same thing, side of the road, cop comes to your house, cop calls you on the phone. What if a cop calls you on the phone? You know how to deal with that? A lot of scammers out there. How do you respond? How do you verify that that's an officer? A lot of interesting things that we can talk about. And it's fun. It's useful. It's practical. And so we're going to be doing that in June 12th, I think it is. Saturday. It's going to be at 9 a.m. start time for me in Arizona, 12 on the East Coast. And all of this information is going to be over at locals.com. So if you want to be a part of any of that, that's the place to do that. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. You can also grab a copy of my book. It's called Beginning to Winning. You can see it right here. Download a copy of the slides that we went through today. We can share our impeachment party documents if you want that. You can download a copy of my existence systems, share links over at Locals, and meet great people. And that's it from me, my friends. Before we get out of here, one final reminder that I am a criminal defense attorney here at the R&R Law Group. We love to help good people who have been charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope in their cases and their lives. So if you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona who has been charged with a crime, whether it's a DUI, domestic violence, drugs, traffic offense, major felony, if they want to clear up an old record, quash an old warrant, get a driver's license back, apply for the right to vote again, to possess a firearm again, to apply for federal benefits. There's a lot that we can do to help clean up old criminal cases. And so if you happen to know anybody in our state that needs some help, we would be honored and humbled if you sent them our direction so that we could have the opportunity to see what we can do to get them past a difficult situation. So we would really much appreciate it. Everybody, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the program today. It has been a lot of fun, and we're going to be back here at the same time, same place next week. It's going to be 4 p.m. Arizona time, 5 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. on the East Coast for that one Florida man. Everybody have a very nice weekend. Sleep well, have a lot of good food, get a little bit of sunshine, and be ready to rock and roll next week because we're going to be here also ready to go. I'll see you then. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.